You gotta check this out, y'all. Welcome to Verbal Pig Radio, where we give you a verbal image of life, and we are every day. People like to welcome you all to the show. We'll break down what took place in just a minute because
New from Ellen
I can't
Hildebrand.
believe
Set sail for paradise, a place where for one man.
all the things that's going on. Getting ready to play something for you guys, and after that, we'll determine if it was justified or not. And I'll tell you why I believe it's not.
The family attorney in this case says that police should have tried to catch Brooks instead of shooting at him. What is your reaction to that?
Voice of a Tom.
30 years in the business, police and law enforcement, and 27 of those years having taught use
This is
of
a black
force
man
and
speaking.
taught hundreds and hundreds of law enforcement officers across the state of Georgia and other states.
This Sheriff Alfonso Williams.
He's not a law enforcement officer. I think that
Burt
is
County,
just
Georgia.
a ridiculous statement. Obviously, we saw in the video that Brooks was engaged in a fight with the officers. They were on the ground. We know that when we're on the ground, we have a very high likelihood of being hurt or killed. It's not the place we want to be. This is not a wrestling match. Brooks is able to take a non-lethal weapon, a taser, away from one of the officers, and he flees. They give chase. He's committed to felony obstruction of an officer counts, and he needs to be held accountable. So they were perfectly justified in running behind Brooks to capture him. Brooks turned back to the officers and fired the taser. And we all know, this is the third law enforcement agency I've been head of, and every agency I've gone to, I've required every officer who carries a taser to be tased with it, so that you understand the incapacitation. 5 seconds, 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004, 1005. That's 5 whole seconds that if an officer is hit with that taser, that all of his muscles will be locked up and he'll have the inability to move and to respond. And yet he is still responsible for every weapon on his belt. So if that officer had been hit, he still has a firearm on his side, and the likelihood of him being stomped in the head or having his firearm taken and used against him was a probability, and so he did what he needed to do, and this was a completely justified shooting.
So you think lethal force here was necessary?
It's very necessary. The Fourth Amendment allows it. This is the objective reasonableness standard, and there's nothing malicious or sadistic in the way these officers behaved, and it's very unfortunate that the law enforcement leaders in the state of Georgia have not come out and stood together on this case. I think it's political, and it's senseless. We're sending the wrong message to our black youth. We're telling them that it's okay, that they can run from the police, they can take a weapon from the police, they can fight with the police, and point a weapon at the police and expect nothing to happen. That is the wrong message to send to black youth. Now, we cannot, Brianna, put this case with the Ahmaud Arbery case nor the George Floyd case. When I saw the George Floyd case, I was outraged. 2 weeks ago, I was so outraged that I wrote a letter to the governor, the head of the Georgia Association of Chiefs of Police, and the head of the Georgia Sheriff's Association, and I provided them with 7 standards that I think are very necessary to prevent black men from being killed at the hands of police in the way it was done in Floyd case and the Ahmaud Arbery case. I graduated high school with Ahmaud Arbery's mother. Those were 2 outrageous, very clear violations of policy and law.
Look, there you have it. See, the thing that this sheriff fails to get is the fact that we'll go back to the Fraternal Order of Police, right? The whole purpose of it was to start and capture out of racism runaway slaves who never got any justice in America till this day. Black officers who don't address this issue, and if you're not aware of this issue, why don't you look up and do your research on the purpose and when was the police started and why was it started? And once you realize that and you get an understanding, you will see why black men has always been fighting with the police just to be alive. If you don't know that information as a black officer, then something is wrong. And if you know that information and you're not doing anything to change the culture of policing in America, how long, hell, black people can remember at times when they wouldn't even hire black officers. They had to fight their way in. And you mean to tell me in his 27 years of policing, he hasn't faced any discrimination, any racism on the force? You don't understand that they have race soldiers on that force? Come on, man. It's ridiculous. And it don't make sense. You know, it's entirely ridiculous. It's just a sad state of affairs. It's ridiculous to get into the mindset. How are we going to solve this issue of problems when people look to black officers for guidance or to fight on the behalf of the community? Because a lot of times it's black organizations or black people in the community who help sponsor some of these officers, or black teachers who taught them, thinking they're going to go into this police fraternal order and do justice for the community or help end some of the racism and the police brutality and the killings that have been going on amongst black people for generations. These black officers get on the force, and then they turn around and say, well, maybe if you would pull your pants up, white folks wouldn't shoot you. They do that, still get shot. Well, maybe if you stop being vocal and boisterous when the police pull you over, maybe they wouldn't kill you. But hell, you shot Philando Castile, and you asked for his gun permit license, he's trying to kill him. Well, maybe if you, but these black officers don't come out and tell the white officers, well, maybe if you relax and let us handle it. You know, well, maybe if you treat white perpetrators of crime the same way you do blacks. Why are you so heavy-handed with force dealing with black men than you are with white men? I mean, where are the black police voice? Every time something happens, they go find a black person, black officer, who will come out from Joe Clark and now this guy, who will come out and say negative things towards the black community, but they will never open their mouths against the white community. Never. I mean, it's and that's a problem. You know, if you can't have a double standard, if you're going to criticize, just criticize around the board. Don't save your criticism just for black people. The point I'm trying to make. Was the shooting justified of Rayshard Brooks? Look, first the officer let him. The Rayshard Brooks is sleeping in his car at Wendy's, right? Drive-through. For 30 minutes, he's speaking with the police casual. Matter of fact, they even let him move his vehicle. Now, if he was that intoxicated, why you even let him get behind the wheel again? But they did. They searched his car, didn't find any weapons, any drugs or whatnot. The guy offered to walk home to his sister's house, and that could have been the end of that. But no. After all of that hassling, and got Rayshard Brooks to entrust in them, meaning the officers, Then all of a sudden, well, we're going to put the cuffs on you. He's like, wait, why? And fight pursues. Now, he's running for his life because, one, in this current climate, black men already know that whenever white police officers approach you, there's a chance you're not going to make it out alive. And that black officer knows this. And so there's a certain fear that black men have when approached by white officers versus no fear that a white male has when he's approached by white officers. Now there's a certain calmness a black person gets if he looks through his side view mirror and he sees a black officer approaching him. He kind of relaxes because he knows there's a good chance he's going to make it home. When he sees that white officer coming up to him, in his mind, he's like, damn, man, what I'm going to do? This guy just going to open fire, man, and kill me right here. This is the last time I'm going to see my family. Should I try to fight back to at least try to save my life? I mean, what should I do? Because the climate is so thick with racism and police brutality, right? And so you sit there and you think, man, so you try to gauge the officer when he comes to your window to see and try to make sure you don't scare him or upset him to where he just hauls off and shoots you. So you try to be still and calm and have your voice calm. Maybe he'll stay calm and hopefully you can get this ticket and hopefully you can make it out of there alive. That's the goal. That's the whole goal. And that's the whole purpose. If we can achieve that, and if these black officers, if only these black officers would do their authority and check the ranks of the police officers that they police with. Meaning, don't come out big and bold and point your finger at the black community, but yet when you go to job, you quiet and because you don't want to upset anyone, but you know what's been going on. A lot of these police departments that's being investigated by the FBI, you can't tell me that the black officers that worked there didn't know what was going on. We do have some that filed some type of race-related charges against the police department. You had a few that would go and say, hey, man, there's something going on. But after that, what happened to them? They were fired. All of a sudden, they fired from the police force. So, they have to keep quiet. Or they have to form a separate union because, the white union don't want them to be a part of their union, so they have to form a black union. I mean, the hypocrisy, right? That you hear coming from inside of the police officers in this justice system. It doesn't make sense. It do not make sense at all. Hopefully, moving forward, the people have to educate themselves, read these books, understand what's going on, understand the law, and attack it from that sense, because that way you know what you're talking about. Gather the information and present your case wisely. But the case has to be presented, because we can't go on and continue to go on with the same outcome and same incidents without. It's going to take, what I'm saying is, it's going to take everybody. It's going to take black police officers. It's going to take black activists, black religious leaders, black teachers. It's going to take the whole black. If you black, it's going to take you. It's going to take you. Now, with these hangings, 2 in California, 1 in Houston, wow. Suicide, okay. Sandra Bland, okay. Suicide, okay. It's playing out. All of that is playing out. People are like, look, be quiet, we tired, man. We don't want to. The black folks took so much shit, excuse my French, to where they can't take none no more. I mean, the door has closed. It's ended. There's no more we don't have an ounce of room for it. So hopefully, in this time and in this day, we can get things right. Verbal Pick Radio, we out.